Stand by for broadcast.
You're listening to InsideAIR, a behind-the-wire view of the Royal Air Force, its people, technology and operations.
Hello, I'm Squadron Leader Peter Lisney, and in this episode, we're off to school with NATO.
I think if you haven't been part of NATO, it's hard to feel part of the NATO team. There are a lot of strengths within these countries. Their strengths are different to our strengths. And actually, if we focus on those strengths, then actually that's good for the alliance and it can make us a lot stronger, and it'd be very good for NATO. The ability to influence and engage is significant, and by far and away more significant than any other appointment I've had in my career.
Also, in this episode, we'll reheat a few stories just in case you missed them, and we'll be finding out who is under the hat this week.
I'm addicted to solitaire, so I love that game.
Find out who is under the hat at the end of this episode. Now, for more than 70 years, the small Bavarian town of Oberammergau has been host to a NATO school. With 115 courses attended by 11,000 students annually, I spoke with an RAF officer currently serving there to find out what the school delivers to both NATO and the Royal Air Force.
Wing Commander John Riddell, Deputy Chief of Staff at the NATO School Oberammergau in Germany. Welcome to Inside Air.
Hi, good afternoon.
This is without doubt the most incredible training environment that I have ever experienced. Perhaps we could just start with you setting the scene of the environment and then maybe tell us about the school's purpose.
So to set the scene, the environment, I'm very fortunate. I was a flight commander at initial officer training back in 2000. And somebody said to me, if you have a passion for training people, the place that you want to go and train is the NATO School Oberammergau. So I heard about that in 2000, but I actually didn't come here on a course until 2019. I arrived here on the course, and if I could just picture that we're surrounded by three beautiful mountains, the Kofel, the Ofaker and the Laber. And these mountains are splendid. They set the scene. We're wedged in between the middle of these. We're in the middle of Bavaria, less than an hour from Munich, and about 12 kilometers from Garmisch, which, as most people will know, is a ski resort. So what do you have here? You have hiking, you have cycling, you have skiing, you have all the climates that you can imagine. From 1 minute there's no snow to the next minute, literally the day after, they can be a foot to a foot and a half of snow. It is an unbelievable environment.
So it's a great place to be posted to, without doubt. But there's a lot that goes on here, and we're here today to talk about the school and what the school delivers to both NATO and to the Royal Air Force. So, yeah, tell us about the school's purpose.
So the school provides operational training to NATO. In effect, over 40% of all NATO training is conducted by the school. In reality, of the 29 disciplines, the school looks at 26 of those 29 disciplines. We have 9 departments. We cover everything from intelligence to cyber to nuclear to the orientation course, which gives people an idea of what NATO is all about, to strategic communication courses. So we cover all disciplines. We're very fortunate. We are bilateral, and by that I mean the Germans and the US collectively, they provide a third each of the manpower here, and the remaining third of the manpower is provided by countries like the UK on a voluntary national contribution basis. So it really is a truly international flavour. We train annually. We can train 11,000 plus students per year from all disciplines. And that's not just people in NATO countries. It's also people in partner countries as well. So we really do have a captive audience of people that come here. And the beauty of the training that we do here is that actually we get experts in to do it. So 60% of the training, the actual delivery, is done by people who are at SHAPE, who are at ACT, who are in Brussels, who are in key appointments around NATO. And because of that, that keeps us honest, it keeps us current, and it makes the sessions vibrant for all those that are in there.
But before we think that this is just a fantastic officer training school in the Alps, there's a junior NCOs course going on at the moment. Corporals from all over NATO are here. So tell us about some of those courses that are development courses.
One of the things that the Gulf War identified was that our NCO cadre could be force multipliers, and NATO very quickly identified that. And as a result of that, they decided that we needed some leadership courses. Now, we can take it for granted in the UK. We have phase 1, 2 and 3 training courses. Within our phase 3, we have multiple courses for junior NCOs, senior NCOs, and flight sergeants, and even warrant officers courses. Not all countries have that luxury. So what they have here is they have junior leadership courses, they have senior leadership courses, and I've even seen, we're very fortunate that we get to one or two of our junior senior NCOs, our fast-track senior NCOs have come on the courses, and the feedback that we get back from the instructors here is excellent. They can't believe how young our senior NCOs are, but not only how young, but how talented they are and how willing they are to take responsibilities and contribute. So you have some very junior senior NCOs coming in and telling some very, very senior people from other countries how they should be doing things, what they should be doing, what they should be considering. And that's testament to the positive training that we give in the UK.
Yeah, I have heard it said while I've been here that the Brits are rather vocal in the training. Is that true?
I think that people come here to train, and one of the things we try to express to people is that you're not coming here to sit back. It's not a week off work or 2 weeks off work or however long the course is that you're on. This is a week where you bring your experience to the table. And if you bring your experience to the table, then it's a much more fulfilling learning environment, and people take much more than just the course from it. They take people's personal experiences, they share these experiences, and that becomes a multiplier in terms of what you get from the course.
So do the British students need to be able to be fluent in German, in French? How does that work?
No, English is the NATO language. French is the second NATO language. We don't run courses in French here. I know in Rome they have a translator in, so the instruction that is given in Rome on the senior course in Rome is both French and English, but here it's English, and everything is taught in English.
Going back to yourself, tell us about your role here. What do you do at the NATO School?
So as the Deputy Chief of Staff, I'm very fortunate to equate it in terms of something that UK RAF personnel might understand is an OC wing. I'm OC wing. I could be OC base. I am a personnel officer, so therefore we'll say I'm OC base wing. But I cover all eventualities. And in terms of, I have a Chief of Staff. I'm his deputy. If he's not here, I step into his shoes. I make the decisions on his behalf. I have a commandant who I provide support to as well. And I also have a Dean of Academics that I provide support to. In terms of the day-to-day functions, what support do I provide? Well, I oversee, as any OC base would, I oversee everything from J1 through to J8. And I'm there to provide support to all the different department directors to ensure that we are delivering and doing the best that we can for the school. In essence, I talked earlier about 11,000 students. SACA has a desire to increase the amount of training that we deliver. And with that desire, we need to find a way to be able to achieve that. To be able to achieve that, we need to increase classroom size. So one of the challenges that we have at the moment with J4, with the J6, with J8, with J2 from a security perspective as well is to look at, okay, what can we do and how can we increase the classroom size? What's that going to take? That's just one example of one of the challenges that I am presented with on a daily basis.
Now, there's 32 NATO nations, and I've been on a training course this week, 54 students on the course, a very broad rank range, but just two of us from the UK, a Royal Marine and myself. I think statistically, that's probably about right. But I would have thought there would have been more Brits here.
A lot of the training courses here are designed for people going into NATO appointments, and they are part of your PD, part of your personal description, your job description. It should have there that you need X course or Y course, whatever it happens to be. So if you don't have a requirement, if it's not there as essential training, then it's understandable that people won't be applying. So UK personnel who want to come on courses here, if they're in NATO appointments, if they're due to go to NATO appointments, then they can explore and look at the opportunities to get on the courses prior to getting here. A prime example would be the orientation course. What is the orientation course? Well, it really is a welcome to NATO course. Yes, you can find all the information out individually if you scour through the internet, etc. You can probably acquire all the information, but what you don't get is the context of being in a room with 20 different countries, 20 different cultures, 20 different nationalities. Now, you can be talking about the same topic, but because of the culture, it's all taken a different way, and you will not get that from scouring the internet. And that's why you need to come on the courses here. So how do you get on as a UK person? First of all, there has to be a requirement. We board people. We get twice the amount of applications for courses that we require. So therefore, they're boarded and they're prioritised. And the priority number one is in your job description, do you need it to do your job with NATO? And if it essentially says you do, then you're priority one. If it's desirable for your job in NATO, then you're priority two. And then we go down. And in partner countries will be 3, maybe 4, because, again, they will not necessarily have the requirement.
How has working in a NATO role changed your perception or your feeling of where you fit into the big picture?
I think my feeling now is that I have a lot more to offer. Culturally, it's been a really interesting experience. We've got all these multicultural people, and they've all got different ideas, but they've all got different strengths and weaknesses. So what's it done for me? It's allowed me to appreciate, that I've got the strengths I've got, the experiences I've got, which are highly valued, and certainly highly valued by my NATO colleagues. But it's also reminded me that actually we should focus more on the positives of culture and less so on the negative. And we joke in bars and we joke in coffee rooms, about, typecasting different nationalities. And we generally do it looking at, dare I say it, the weaknesses or perhaps perceived weaknesses. When what I've found in my time, and certainly in this is my second tour, is there are a lot of strengths within these countries. Their strengths are different to our strengths. And actually, if we focus on those strengths, then actually that's good for the alliance and it can make us a lot stronger, and it'd be very good for NATO.
And how has it affected your sense of pride in NATO? Because before you did your first tour, did you have a sense of pride about NATO?
I think if you haven't been part of NATO, it's hard to feel part of the NATO team. So when you're in the UK, you're part of Team UK, whether that be within your Air Force sphere, whether that be in a joint environment or not. But rarely do you feel, even though we're doing lots to support NATO, rarely do you feel part of the NATO team. So it's only when you're in the team. I got close to the team as a UK admin officer in Portugal back in 98 to 2000. I did 2 years there. And my role there was, as a UK admin officer, was to provide the welfare support and the administrative support and the J1 support to the people working in NATO. So I got within touching distance of NATO, but even then I didn't feel part of the NATO team. I still felt part of UK PLC, RAF PLC, and that allowed me. I've only felt part of the NATO team when I went into the strategic management role in SHAPE, and when you're actually working shoulder to shoulder with people from different nationalities, that's when I felt part of the NATO team. It's very difficult, but it's very exciting to be part of that team. It's fun, and I've had considerable fun in both tours, and I'm enjoying my tour here. But fun for the right reasons, because as well as embracing the different working cultures, you embrace the different social cultures, and we have a lot to learn from each other in both areas.
So when I was growing up, I'm sure most people listening probably had a similar experience. You go to school in your local neighbourhood, you go through to junior school or middle school, whatever it is, and you've got all your cohort friends. You know everyone because you've grown up with them. And then you go to big school. Then you go to the comprehensive, the secondary school, and all of a sudden, you've got new best friends, and you didn't spend the last 12 years with them. That, to me, is what it's like coming on a NATO course. Is that the same way it works for having a post in NATO?
And I think the best example of that is Rome. I made it my business to get to know all 72 members of my course. 72 members from 32 different countries, including an Iraqi civil servant who was in my actual flight. What do I say to courses here when we're talking about networking? I use that as an example, and I say I can pick up the phone to 32 different countries, and if I really needed somebody to open a door for me, I have a very good chance of that door being opened.
So the last thing that we'd like to talk about today is how things might have changed or developed since Russia invaded Ukraine. And we're in a training establishment. How has that fed through to the training here at Oberammergau?
I think our training here is very, very fluid. We're very agile. We're very capable of dealing with short notice changes. I arrived here 5 months into Russia, Ukraine. I arrived here having spent 5 months discussing and debating at the NATO Defense College in Rome on the senior course about Russia, Ukraine. I think we are in the best position to deal with change because 24 of the 26 OPRs, Officers of Primary Responsibility, for the courses that we run come from ACO, come from SHAPE. So they are actually at the coalface of what's required. They're the ones shaping us to shape the courses to ensure that we get what is required when it's required. SACEUR has acknowledged this. SACEUR has also in his expressed the desire to increase the training that we're delivering. The challenge that we have for that, and the challenge for the UK and all other countries who are delivering voluntary national, is that we need more instructors here. We need more staff. The UK used to have, I believe, 8 members of staff here. We now have 3. Now, if I look at my career, when I started my career back in 1985, we were nearly 100,000 in the Air Force. We're now down to about 30,000. So you would say that actually we are downsizing in the number here very similar to the downsizing of the Air Force. So that it does fit, but it doesn't escape the fact that we need people here to instruct. I think what all countries need to realise is that an instructor coming here, and I'll take the UK. The UK, for people overseas, they constantly, or the big driver is for us to have people that are in positions of influence and engagement. Now, my experience here is that I've never come across a place where that is more paramount. As I've stated previously, with 11,000 students, with 1,200 to 1,800 VIPs and SMEs coming through here, the ability to influence and engage is significant, and by far and away more significant than any other appointment I've had in my career. And by that, I've been in recruiting, I've been the OC support unit in Akrotiri, I've been the UK admin officer in Portugal, I've been OC base support wing at our 4-star headquarters. All of those positions that I've been in, none of them have offered me the ability to engage and influence as much as the position or the positions that people have here. So from a UK perspective, this meets the bill for us to do that. For other countries who I'm also sure want to do the same thing of engaging and influencing, I would echo, send your instructors here because it's a great place for them to build their networks with all the key SMEs, all the key VIPs associated with those. They're the ones who can open doors and allow us to make change.
Yeah, so when you make friendships and alliances in this kind of environment, the dividend is paid
tenfold.
Wing Commander Riddell, thank you very much for being on Inside Air and sharing your insight into the NATO School, Oberammergau.
Thank you very much.
This is Reheat for Inside Air, where we take a look at some of the RAF stories you may have missed. I'm AS2 Chris Keane. Tens of thousands of people, including His Majesty the King, made the trip to France to commemorate D-Day 80. Among them was one of the RAF's oldest World War II veterans, 102-year-old Jack Hemmings. His trip to Normandy was also to honour his close friend Stuart King, who served with 247 Fighter Squadron. Stuart sadly passed away at the age of 98 during the height of the 2020 lockdown, so Jack went to Normandy to retrace the steps of his best friend. RAF Typhoons in Romania have conducted a live-fire strafing sortie as part of NATO's exercise Dacian Strike 24. The RAF joined allies from Romania, Italy, France, Poland and the USA in demonstrating how military assets can work together both in the air and on the ground. Flight Lieutenant Charles from 9 Bomber Squadron was one of the Typhoon pilots.
What we use strafe for operationally is if we were asked to prosecute a target on the ground. So that might be close air support, supporting friendly troops on the ground. And if they identify a target and they need that struck, they can either give us the coordinates and the exact location, or using our sensors on the aircraft, they can talk us onto that target.
4 members of the Irish Air Corps have been presented with their RAF wings after graduating at RAF Shawbury. They were the first ever Irish airmen to complete the course after more than a year of training. And finally, in another first, the RAF Pumas took on the Army Fury in the inaugural Women's Inter-Service Ice Hockey Championship. The RAF came away with the victory, beating the Army 7-5, something ex-GB player and Pumas coach Corporal Jess Barnacote was very happy with.
We just stuck to what we knew, played our own game and basically outskated the Army. To see the stadium alive with so many fans, all the aces were there, it really cheered the girls on and made them play even better, I think, because they had that support behind them.
And that was Reheat for Inside Air.
I'm AS1 Ben Russell and this is Under the Hat, where we get to know an aviator in less than a minute. Name you're known by.
Hi, I'm Flight Attendant Scott Toomer.
What's your profession?
I'm a Weapons Systems Officer bracket crewman, closed bracket, otherwise known as a commissioned loadie. I'm currently based at the Royal Air Force Officers Training Academy at Cranwell in Lincolnshire.
What's the best thing about your job?
Best bit about the job is I love teaching and mentoring, and the ability to try and influence those younger generation coming through. It really does give me a buzz.
Hardest part of your job?
The downside is the hardest part is unfortunately when we have to actually fail somebody. It's never a nice feeling, but we have to be strict and there are rules. But luckily most people do get it second time round, so that's good news.
Best location you've served?
Well, that's got to be Larnaca in Germany. Apart from the tax-free cars, we were in the centre of Europe, so it made you could just go anywhere. And being on a Chinook squadron, we were always busy, which is always a good thing.
What bit of luxury kit do you never deploy without?
I never deploy without my iPad. If you've got Wi-Fi, you can watch TV and you can watch films. If you've got no Wi-Fi, I'm addicted to solitaire, so I love that game. So it's always available regardless.
And what's your proudest moment in the RAF?
Well, I carried His Majesty's colour for the Royal Air Force College down the Mall at the coronation. That was just the most amazing experience. To be part of something so big and so global was incredible and highlighted my first 6 years.
Thank you, Flight Lieutenant Toomer, for not failing us and allowing us to pass out of this episode of Under the Hat.
That's all for this episode of Inside Air. Please give us a review and subscribe on your favourite podcast app, and join us again soon.
You've been listening to Inside Air, a behind-the-wire view of the Royal Air Force, its people, technology and operations. If you're serving in the RAF and have a story for us, please speak to your unit media and communications officer. Inside Air is written and produced for the Royal Air Force by RAF Media Reserves.